This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. The winter meetings beginning now. The New York Yankees doing minimal labor, probably. Brian Cashman spoke last night, Sunday. He arrived. He's probably going to speak every night. You're going to learn more from him. Are you? I'm not sure about that, but he's definitely going to talk. A couple nuggets, interesting things that we could build off of, maybe. I honestly don't know what's interesting at this point. And what is Brian Cashman setting breadcrumbs for moves that nobody sees coming? And what is Brian Cashman talking about what he already did, setting you up for disappointment this offseason? Are the Yankees any closer to Cody Bellinger? Are they going to actually make moves on Cody Bellinger? Or is Brian Cashman saying that the Yankees are too lefty-heavy going to mean that Bellinger moves on elsewhere? Is that cover for Bellinger to change hands this offseason? Are the Yankees going to make moves on some righties? Are the Yankees going to make one of these challenge trades that Brian Cashman floated last night? You know, remember I did Michael Pineda for Jesus Montero. Yes, we're doing greatest hits. Let's definitely run that one back. Where do the Yankees stand in the room? Really, it does feel like their rivals, the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, even the Mets, depending on what you feel about the Mets, are connected to a whole lot more than they are. We'll talk about what we're hearing. We'll try to figure it out. Maybe we'll even have a news drop by the end of this. Happy Monday. Welcome to the show. 2:13 p.m. The only news of day one of the winter meetings is Mike Soroka going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Usually when people ask me, like, is this going to be crazy or is this going to be deader than dead? I'm like, it's always crazy. It's the winter meetings. But so far, no movement, no real momentum either. Like, I don't feel like I'm waiting for something to get done. I don't feel like sides are exchanging names. But then again, I didn't feel that way when Brandon Nimmo and Marcus Semien went down either. I was kind of taken aback by that. I've been surprised by a lot of stuff for the last couple of weeks. So welcome to the show, Thomas Carinante. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Movement. I mean, sniffing. What's happening in Orlando?
I'm on the same page as you. I'm not doubting that stuff's going to go down. I think that it's the winter meetings. Very rarely do we get a really quiet one, but I don't know what could potentially go down these next 3 days. I'm hoping that makes it more fun and more unpredictable, which honestly the last couple weeks were. A lot of things happened the last few weeks that we didn't expect to happen, and we thought we would be waiting for the winter meetings to take place for them to happen. So I'm gonna be a rare optimist because I feel like the baseball world knows the winter meetings are the time. This is it. It's the big leagues. Gotta make stuff happen here. It's literally marketing for the sport in a sense. People are wondering, oh, why are you freaking out about Major League Baseball on December 8th to 11th, Thomas? It's because the winter meetings are happening in Orlando, buddy. Get a clue. So I don't know. Maybe Schwarber. They were saying today that Schwarber is kind of the first domino to fall, yes, so all these other deals can happen. I don't know why he's the name, but there was a reported offer from the Pirates. Don't know how true that is. If there's offers from teams like that coming in already, that means potentially the foundation of the contract is beginning to settle in, and then the bigger dogs make their offers. I don't know. Dave Dombrowski, what are you thinking? We got trades lined up here. We got very active GMs at these meetings. So like this generation, the last 5 years of these GMs, guys doing a lot of work, a lot of recon. There's already been a bunch who have spoken on MLB Network this morning and this afternoon. So hopefully the table's being set. I'm going to hold out some hope because I want to be entertained and I want to have some fun. But yeah, Yankee stuff. Cashman addresses the meet. He essentially kicked off the winter meetings last night, didn't he? That was a little bit bizarre. I didn't expect that happening. Said the Yankees are arguably too lefty, and now that had me thinking, is that because of Mom Donnie?
Wow.
I don't know
that at all. And I didn't think about, that's not the kind of flavor and edge that I expected the winter meetings to take on. Like, are they going to ask Chris Young or Craig Breslow about potential, Democratic Socialist mayoral challenges in their state? I don't know. Like Jasmine Crockett for U.S. Senate in Texas could be interesting to ask Jim Crane about that. No, I didn't think about that. You never know. Cashman, he did show up. He did show up on a heater. And I think in terms of the number of Brian Cashman press conferences we've sat through over the years, getting optimistic, getting pessimistic, this one falls right in the middle, but closer to optimism, I would say. the pessimism just kicks in when you think about the reality of the market. And like you said, Kyle Schwarber is going to be the first domino to fall. That's not a Yankees target. We're not involved. The reason people keep saying that is not because he is a better player than Kyle Tucker or Alex Bregman or Bo Bichette, but there's just a larger market for his services, it would seem. More teams that could pivot to other things if they don't bring him in. The Phillies are purportedly the favorites at this point, but if they do not figure out a way to extend that marriage, they already let him get to free agency. They already made a mistake. If they can't get this done, then they could pivot to Cody Bellinger. The Mets are reportedly interested in Schwarber, but they feel like a much better fit for the outfielders, for Tucker, for Bellinger. And those two guys are going to be compared to one another until one of them signs, until both of them sign. So the Blue Jays think they're the favorites for Tucker. It would seem that's also just because we don't know anything about the rest of Kyle Tucker's market. He visited Toronto's facility. Has he visited anybody else? Is anybody else even? The Dodgers are interested on a short-term deal with opt-outs. Like, what the hell is the market for Kyle Tucker? Now, sorry to harsh Yankee fans, Mello. Like, not going to be us. Joel Sherman put out a video about a half hour ago questioning.
Tucker lives in Tampa too, and he didn't go to Tampa.
Questioning if Kyle Tucker burns for baseball is what Joel Sherman just put out, saying,
what?
I know what Cody Bellinger is. I know how he burns for the game. I don't know if I would pay someone who I'm not sure about whether they feel that way, the amount of money that Kyle Tucker's looking for. He's basically doing a Tucker Rendon comp today.
Is he mentioning that because the Yankees had experience with Bellinger or because literally nobody knows?
I think he's mentioning that because he saw Bellinger on a daily basis and can't get a read on Kyle Tucker. But it does sound like
makes sense.
People in the game, or at least people in the New York market, seem to be worried about Kyle Tucker's drive. I mean, I don't know if there are still any Yankee fans out there dreaming of Tucker. It felt like a pipe dream from the beginning. It always felt like the big money move that our haters wanted us to make so that they could laugh at us again when we come up a piece or two short. But he's going to get somewhere between 350, 400 mil. We have always talked on the show about, like, are we sure? Are we just giving that to him because we decided he needs it? Like, are we sure he needs that? But he was never in the Yankees' plans since the moment they didn't trade for him last fall. And I said that yesterday in a room, and some people commented back, like, that shocks me given what they were rumored to surrender for him last year. And again, they were rumored, they didn't do it, right? It's very easy to be rumored to do something when you don't actually do it, because then you can say, oh, I was actually willing to offer George Lombard and Luis Heel. Okay, well, it wasn't accepted, so PR spin. And then, I said it felt like the Yankees, if they had traded for Tucker last year, would have pulled the Cubs. And that's when the people were like, really? For what they gave up? You really feel that way? The Cubs gave up a lot. The Cubs gave up Cam Smith and Wesneski, and now it's over for them. They're not even trying.
And Paredes, no, was that a separate one?
Yeah, no, he saw Paredes, a major league all-star, a 30-homer bat. That's what the Cubs gave up. And 1 year of Kyle Tucker, was it worth it? We'll debate that. But, I feel like the Yankees probably would have, how could you say the Yankees would have done that? The Cubs just did it. Like, I'm surprised the Cubs did it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees did the same thing. So Tucker, not an option. Schwarber, obviously not an option for the Yankees. But what happens with Schwarber is going to affect Bellinger. And that feels like the only really top of market player who's going to affect the Yankees this offseason. I asked Robert Murray today on the Baseball Insiders if this Cashman pointedly being like, we got too many lefties, like, Cody Bellinger is a lefty. Is he just telling you, hey, we already have too many and I got to balance this thing, and I'm not going to spend $180-200 million on another lefty? Robert shot that down and said Bellinger hits lefties as well as righties, and that's true. He was great against lefties in a small sample size last year, but too many lefties. We've got Brian Cashman complaining about his own lineup again, a lineup that he built. We've got Brian Cashman, not exactly, he's not like going full bore on it. He's not giving the answers he gave on Juan Soto. Obviously, he said we'd love to have Bellinger back multiple times. I think they would love to have Bellinger back if things lined up. That's where the pessimism comes in, though. He's talking up Dominguez. He's talking up Jones. He's talking up Anthony Volpi. And so you're asking yourself, you got to hope it's what it was last year when he said Caleb Durbin is going to be an opening day starter for us. He's got the inside track at third base, and then a week and a half later, he's traded for Devin Williams. Cashman's mentioning these challenge trades. Is he mentioning those so he can flip Jason Dominguez for pitching? Is he mentioning those so he could just, get in a room with another GM, go tete-a-tete, come out with something nobody ever expected, and give away someone who was supposed to be the Yankees' future? That's what an optimistic person would say. They're probably going to sign Bellinger. They're probably going to make a pitching splash trade. They're probably going to add bullpen pieces. An optimistic person would also latch on to the part of Cashman's speech where he said, I don't know why Michael Kay is saying we're financially restricted. It's the same as it ever was. Hal said, bring things to me. I'm going to him when I have ideas. That's the only thing we know so far. So he's asked me to run stuff by him. I'm doing it. He'd obviously like to lower payroll. So would everybody. In an ideal world, your payroll is small, but we don't live in an ideal world. We live in the modern age. There was a Joel Sherman comment yesterday, too, that indicated, he pushed back on the idea that Hal is cheap and basically said people are going to call him cheap if he doesn't pay $400 million for Tarek Skubal next year. People are going to call him cheap no matter what he does or doesn't do. But the reality is he'd love to get that payroll lower. He understands it might not be possible. Maybe with new financial constraints with Rodon, Cole, Stanton off the books after 2028, he'll try to win with a new lower. He'll really go low and he'll see, well, now that the rest of the league has their spending capped or whatever happened in this impending lockout, like maybe that's when he'll finally say, okay, can we start from scratch? But Sherman seemed to hint right now he knows he's locked into a whole bunch of stuff. You can't win with a lower payroll now, so you have to do what you have to do. That's what I've been hoping will happen, that he'll just keep saying, I'd love to get it lower, but shit, I already bought all these people, so what more can I do? More half measures, though, is what we've got in the last couple of years. So depending on if you're an optimist or a pessimist, you can pull something out of the quotes. But regardless, the Domino needs to follow Schwarber. He's not a Yankees target. Tucker's not a Yankees target. The Yankees aren't going to shop top of the market for anyone but Bellinger, and we still don't know what the hell they actually are going to do.
So what this could mean is that winter meeting's active from a trade perspective and maybe not a free agent perspective.
That's what it feels like to me. And we've already had some active trades the last couple of weeks that did genuinely come out of nowhere.
Yeah, that kind of established things and settled everybody where they may need to be in terms of the jumping off point, right? Every time you are talking a trade, there's, hey, here's what I think. And then the other side is like, oh, that's actually a good start. Or the other side's like, 3 more phone calls, and then maybe we can actually have a discussion. So maybe that's the winter meetings we're looking at. But as for the Yankee stuff, look, like there's been a lot of just speculation flying around, whether the Yankees are going to reduce payroll, whether they want to increase payroll. We're not going to know any of it. I am of the belief that while it does sound like lip service where it's like Hal said, oh yeah, bring everything to me, I think that's the way the Yankees have operated largely since that last free agency splurge in 2013. It's been, we have to be somewhat calculated, but if there's an exception out there, such as at the time they thought a Giancarlo Stanton trade or massively overpaying for Garrett Cole because they needed an ace, like bring it to Hal. The Aaron Judge. Hey, Hal, wake up, buddy. Tuscany can wait till tomorrow. What do we need? Judge wants another year and $40 million. Great, give it to him. We want him. So I don't disagree with the notion that Hal Stein, it's both sides. Of course he wants to reduce payroll. He doesn't want to have to keep spending and spending and spending just to get a team that is suitable for World Series contention because they're already in that stratosphere. But the idea is that if you fuck up with X, Y, and Z signings, which the Yankees have over the past 6 years, 7 years, then you can say, all right, like spending be damned this year. I'm going to just do whatever I can and we'll figure it out later. That's, I think, everybody's main issue with the Yankees is like, we don't need you spending $400 million every year, but when you make multiple wrong bets and it's affecting the roster dramatically in a multitude of ways, you got to be able to right those wrongs. That is the theme of this podcast every single week. But I don't think Hal is cheap. I think Brian Cashman is a smart GM and he does explore every single option. I think that the caginess this time around from an optimist standpoint is that, look, the pessimist standpoint is this. They're telling you exactly what they're telling you in terms of like they believe in Volpi and they believe in Dominguez, and that's the reality, and that they're lying about the payroll. That's pessimist view. Optimist view is that they're talking up Volpi and Dominguez for a potential trade. I don't think Volpi can really get I don't think there's anybody interested in Anthony. Like there can't be.
And they hate to sell low. They're not
exactly.
selling like dumpster on a former top.
Yep. So I think just for the sake of them not having to say, yeah, I mean, we need a shortstop next year, so we got to figure, like, you can't say that. So the optimist viewpoint is that, yeah, he's acknowledging that Volpi was a little bit more injured than they had believed based on what the MRIs had shown. that's crazy to me, but we'll have a separate show for that in due time if it calls for it. I don't think his assessment with Jason Dominguez was necessarily wrong. I thought it was actually eloquent. Like, Dominguez is a talented player. There is no denying his offensive profile from the left side of the plate. There is no denying his speed. And if he can get his instincts in check for defense, like, I don't think there's an issue with the defense outside of the arm just not being tremendous. But improve your routes, he's going to be able to track down any ball out there. You've seen him on the base paths. He's an absolute demon. So if he was hyping him up as a trade candidate, I believe it. If he believes Dominguez can be in the mix for the Yankees this year, I also believe it, because we thought the same thing too. We just didn't expect the defense to be that bad in left field this year. So that was really the problem. And then also from an optimist point of view, Kyle Tucker may, or like, I don't think he did, because I don't think he's a target, but he may or may not have visited the Yankees in Tampa. The Yankees are not going to want to reveal this information. He declined to comment on Tatsuya Imai visiting and talking to the Yankees. The Yankees do not want to be used as leverage in these talks. That's been very much made clear. And the Scott Boras of it all. Scott Boras is representing a number of these clients on the market, and I would not be surprised if Hal is feeling a certain way toward him, right? You have the Rodon deal from 2023, that was the year before 2023, the winter meetings of 2022, but I think it
3
leaked
years
into
ago, the last like momentous winter meetings 3 years ago.
Yeah, and then the reports came out after that, after the 2023 season, when Rodon was a disaster, that he felt like he was tricked by Scott Boras. And I mean, if I was an owner and I was shelling out that money and, let's face it, wasn't paying that much attention to baseball, I might feel the same way. We felt differently. We thought Rodon was right for the price and was an impact acquisition, and that was the move the Yankees needed to make to take themselves above and beyond. It didn't work in 2023. It kind of worked this year. It might work next year. Who knows? And then there's the Soto of it all. The negotiations were in the dark. Soto wasn't allowed to be contacted. The nebulous nature with which the contract talks went back and forth, with it kind of being like a blind bidding. You have the idea that the Yankees were just used to drive as much money up as possible. So Scott Boras knew Steve Cohen was going to pay what he was going to pay, and he knew that he needed to use the Yankees to get that number as high as it could possibly go, because the Yankees were realistically the only other team that was going to be attractive for him to sign a long-term deal and would be willing to pay $6, $7, whatever, $100 million. So I think there's that factor here as well when you're talking about free agents. So that's why Brian Cashman of it all is important right now, because he's got to play stuff close to the vest. He can't be too revealing, and he's got to capitalize on the trade market early on, or else I don't know what we're looking at for this. I really don't know what else we're looking at for this offseason. Like Imai, and then you're just waiting for other stuff, Bellinger, or you're just hoping the pitching, like the pitching injuries are fine by July, which I think is a massive risk. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of just things floating in the air that we got to wait for to happen.
It's so much floating. Like, it's so much floating. And I mean, at least look, we are in the Yankees, again, the comments that rage at Hal's budget and Brian Cashman's allocation of funds, like, I don't mind them. Like, I get angry when I think about the fact that the Yankees continue to let these deals that they already signed, that were either reasonable or slight overpays at the time, hold them back from future endeavors. You cannot be the Yankees if you're going to give out contracts that only the Yankees can give out, but then afterwards get as scared of them as the Orioles would. That's not going to hack it here. But I can never accuse them of being outright cheap. It's the half measures that kill you. It's going part of the way in and not finishing it off. That said, at least we are fans of a team that based on what I've heard so far this week and the past couple weeks, I can't confidently connect them. I can't confidently say they're going to land Bellinger. I can't reasonably forecast a trade target. I don't know what's coming, especially after the Trent Grisham decision. But the Yankees are going to pull off a splash trade at some point, I think, whether you love the result or not. Like, I'm not saying we're going to party when it happens. It could be Ryan McMahon for Griffin Herring, and we could be giving up Rock Riggio for Jake Bird. But the Yankees are going to bring you something. I have no idea when, and I don't know I would guess rotation help. I would guess young, controllable rotation help. I would definitely guess bullpen arm. I keep looking at the Marlins because they wanted Spencer Jones last summer. The Yankees want Anthony Bender and Sandy Alcantara, and everyone but Yuri Perez is available apparently. So Edward Cabrera. But if a team like the Pirates that the comment section's bringing up, like their Kyle Schwarber offer gets revealed, and we laugh at it. We dismiss it offhand. The Pirates are trying to be relevant. Pete Alonso they're interested in. Great. He's not coming there. So I just hear the Pirates connected to these names and I go, I don't even know if I don't need to even think about this because it's not going to happen. And now they're tied to Jorge Polanco and Ryan O'Hearn and Kazuma Okamoto. And they clearly have $100+ million to spend, but who's going to be the first one to take it? And if it's someone like it has to be a two-way street. Polanco is someone that the Mariners really wanted back. We heard it was their top priority after getting Josh Naylor. Are the Pirates going to make it? They're going to make the Mariners nervous? Are the Mariners going to actually get anxious here thinking about, oh my gosh, what if Polanco chooses the Pirates head to head over us? I don't think that's going to happen. Ryan O'Hearn, is that where he's going to want to go? Is he a guy who wants to take a little bit less to be on a winning team, or does he want to be part of this generation of Pirates players that's trying to build some form of contender, wild card or otherwise, around Paul Skeens? It's going to take someone to get it started, but Kazuma Okamoto is going to come over from Japan and change everything in Pittsburgh. It's nice that they're seeing their name get mentioned, but like a lot of people have said, insiders have gone overtime to connect the Pirates to these targets, to Schwarber, to Alonso, conveniently 1 year ahead of a likely, taxation fight and competitive balance fight. Now the Pirates can say, we were all in on these guys. What do you want us to do? We tried to sign Josh Naylor. We didn't. We tried to sign Kyle Schwarber. It's hard to sign people when people don't want to come here. But then ultimately they're floating a financial offer around the market value, but a little bit less, like $100 million over 4 years for Schwarber. Okay, he's going to get 4 for $150. He's going to get 5 for $162 or whatever. So the Pirates are going to have to go $200 million on Schwarber if they want him, and they're not going to, and they're going to get to brag that they tried but didn't get him. So I'd rather be rooting for the Yankees at this confusing winter meetings and beyond where I know they're going to do business. I have no idea what it is. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I'm probably going to get mad at the half measures. We talk on this show all the time about how hard Brian Cashman's job is. And it's not just because everyone says you should be fired all the time. Because no one wants to deal with the Yankees. No one wants to help them. You're coming in from a position that is not one of strength. I am calling for Brian Cashman job to change because I want a new voice in the room spearheading these negotiations. I just want to change it. 25 plus years of the same guy droning on about the same needs and the same business, and other teams didn't want to help him in 2001. They don't want to help him now. Maybe fresh blood, new relationships can change the way this operates. I don't think Brian Cashman is some historic loser in the way that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But I just think it's beyond time for a change. And I think he's done some of his best work in the last year and a half, but he's done some of his worst work during the Aaron Judge era. And so I think, times they should be a change. And I don't think Brian Cashman is just a grade A idiot, but I also don't think that means he should have a job for life. And I'll raise you this one. Ooh. I don't think Cody Bellinger is the must go all in. If they don't pay him, it's a failure. You need to give him 8 years. You need to outbid the field. You need to do the Pirates. The Pirates are going to have to bid $40 million over the top offer to get someone like Kyle Schwarber. The Yankees shouldn't have to do that. They need to watch. They need to be competitive. If you really care about Bellinger, you really think he's the difference, the missing piece, then get it done. But let's say Cody Bellinger goes to the Mets for $780 or whatever, and it comes out that the Yankees were skittish about the commitment and they wouldn't offer over 4 years or whatever. This is a hypothetical, but also a reasonable possibility. They're at 4 years, 110, and the Mets are at 7 years, 178. And he goes there because duh. Yeah. And so after you hear that, if that happens and it's clear that the Yankees wanted the player, but couldn't even get to 60% of what the market entailed. And again, another guy walking across town. At that point, if you're Aaron Judge, don't you have to say something about them just letting your running mates go? At what point, when is it enough? Juan Soto is one thing. They make a huge offer to Juan Soto. He chooses what looks in the grand scheme of things not that big a difference, but is 30-40 million total to go to a different franchise. 1 year they spent together. It was great. Juan Soto seems upset now. It is what it is. He had the same year with Bellinger, running mate. partner in crime. They're always spotted together in the dugout. He's your protection. He's in the outfield. He's versatile. He's making catches that Juan Soto couldn't. If you watch him just go to the other team, the team that spends more willingly, the team that doesn't have any sort of clubhouse chemistry of note, but just keeps doing this to you, that feels like it would be enough for Aaron Judge to say, like, okay, I know you don't care about my prime, but I do. And like, why are we're going to run it back with another 1 year running mate? We're going to bring somebody else random in here for the 2026 season who's never heard from again. After we're going to swing another trade for a bat who's expiring. Or what are we going to do? When are we going to start paying attention to keeping a little bit of consistency in the heart of the order? I feel like that's the one thing about this offseason is that if that happens again, which it could happen, Judge would have to show me something in that moment. And that feels like finally the time when he would have to step up and be like, we need to straighten some things out.
Can we argue that he kind of did that with Verdugo and it was bad? I agree. I think that like there obviously needs to be more of that. He's had a say in some capacity, with Rizzo as well. I think that was fairly evident. Verdugo, I don't know where else we could have pinpointed his potential involvement in any of that. But yeah, I mean, larger picture though, it's obvious. Especially if Stanton and Cole are essentially the only ones. Like those are the only. Well, I guess you signed Max Fried, so that there's that too. But the lineup is very important. So the two biggest free agent signings of the Aaron Judge era were pitchers. I'm not opposed to that, but yeah, there is a gap there because he needs to be developing a rapport with somebody else and more of an everyday player, right? Because Giancarlo Stanton is not that, and the Yankees. And that's not an insult to Giancarlo Stanton. Unfortunately, his career is just not what the back half of his career has not been what the Yankees had anticipated. But the Yankees also knew that in year 3. They knew in year 3, even if you want to extend it to 4, they knew after the 2021 season, they said, you know what? This is tough. He's missed a couple of he's missed a lot of the regular season. He's missed a couple of postseasons. Like, this is killing us. We can't bank on this being the case. Let's bring in somebody else. You get a Soto. They went for Donaldson, Gallo, and IKF and the like, and nothing was big enough. To date, it feels like Jazz Chisholm might have been the next best acquisition they had, honestly, outside of Soto and Bellinger. And I would say that the only way that we can definitively call this offseason a failure is one of two things. They do nothing from this point forward, which is literally impossible. They can't do that.
Can't do that.
Because they don't have enough players. So they need to get more players. But so really, too, this is a definitive failure if they trade someone like Jazz for value. I don't know what would be. What is the value you're getting back from Jazz? You're creating a void at second base and you're not filling it immediately. You're waiting a year or two to fill it, depending on how the prospects perform.
Yeah.
Or you're trading Jazz, getting a pitcher, and then trading young pitching for a second baseman. And I don't know how that works in your favor when you have this revolving door of players. Again, a lot of the issue is the chemistry aspect, where it's been a lot of revolving door players outside of Judge and Stanton. Outside of that, it's been, 2-3 years here, 1 year here, and they're not getting that chemistry rapport that they need. So, and not to mention, you want to talk about consistency, 1, and then 2, trust in the players you have in the room. I'm not saying, I obviously know they tried for Soto, but they didn't win that. And some of the other imperfect fits that they brought along set them back. And then maybe they thought they were going to get some of those guys signed to extensions, and they said, no, we can't do it. We got to go in another direction. So, when is the point going to come where you're going to trust the next longer-term position player to come in and make an impact? And maybe that is a thought process with them, but and maybe they swung too far in the other direction with kind of the Anthony Volpi situation and anointing him. They're like, oh, great, this is the other core member of the Aaron Judge era that's going to help us get to the next stage, and then it just hasn't worked out for 3 years, and they're stuck. So I don't know. Either way, I think it's safe to say I agree. Is it the smartest front office in the league? No, it's not. It's simply not. They're not cutting edge. They do less with more.
They get
Usually.
defensive when you ask them about
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I could do with less of that.
Yeah, of course, but they're good. They know how to evaluate players for the most part. They have relationships with a lot of agents out there and other front offices. That they are an active they're an active trade participant, whether the trades work in their favor or not. So and they do identify talent. Again, do we have our complaints? Absolutely. Like, yes, there are a lot of things here that we wish would be different, but to say that they're stupid and never spend money is just wrong. And that's not me defending the front office. That's just me saying, yes, there needs to be changes, but let's remember here that this is a team that just paid $218 million for Max Fried last year. This is a team that made a $760 million offer to Juan Soto. Times are changing, right? Like, somebody was talking about, who was talking, this came up in my feed. Someone who was a Yankees fan, forgot who it was. But he had a plea for Hal to sell the Yankees, and it wasn't because Hal Steinbrenner is a neglective, bad owner. It's because the stratosphere that Hal needs to be in the present day is not reachable for who he is and what he does. So, like, you have Steve Cohen for one, you have the Dodgers ownership group for two, you have the Blue Jays ownership group for three. So I think it's important to note this. The Yankees have historically outspent all of those teams. It hasn't even been close.
Yep.
But the last 5-6 years, we've seen it's been different. The Dodgers are far and away number one. The Mets are a behemoth in their own right. Is their process perfect? No, but they're in a stratosphere the Yankees may not be able to attain. And the Blue Jays, again, have an ownership group. They, it's Rogers, whatever, the giant, it's a massive media company. So they have, it's money they're never going to unfold. So the fact that they were able to get all the deals that they've got done over the last few years speaks to the changing landscape. And he was saying, if Hal can't do that and his essential worth is being estimated as, a floating, no, the Yankees are worth $8.1 billion, right? Yeah, but that's only if somebody buys them. Hal Steinbrenner is not the Joker sitting on a pile of cash in a giant vault waiting to unleash it. Like, he's Elon Musk, dude. He's Twitter shares. That's it. He's using his Twitter shares to leverage on everything else. So obviously, again, $300 million payroll there. But if the new normal for big spenders is 350, 375, is Hal there? We're watching it unfold before us. This could change in 2 years. The Dodgers and who knows what the labor agreement says? Who knows if Steve Cohen and the Dodgers ownership group and the Blue Jays get sick of, we're not going to 400 million now. Now you've lost us. We're not going that high. So, like, it could correct itself. But for right now, the Yankees the Yankees cut payroll in the beginning of Aaron Judge's tenure, and they knew they had an MVP caliber talent on their hands, and they still went ahead and they did that. So clearly, over the last 10 years, there's been a shift for Hal Steinbrenner, the Yankees ownership, the board, whatever. There's been some sort of apprehension on the front to go above and beyond. So if that's the new normal for contenders and the Yankees can't fulfill that, I think that's a valid conversation. I wouldn't go that far to, like, broadcast that myself on the airwaves because I don't know enough about it, but it was an interesting point to bring up. And when you connect the dots over the last, 7-8 years, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, one of my least favorite things people say is when they're like, it's not the 50s anymore. You can't just get, like, we have the draft now. We have free agency now. That's why the Yankees aren't scary anymore. It's like, did you sleep through the 90s and 2000s? You sleep through the late 70s? Like, they used to figure out a way to get it done. Like, they had to adjust. If they were at the forefront of free agency in the 70s, in the 80s, George Steinbrenner lost his way. In the 90s, they drafted and developed better than anybody else. They exploited the modern system perfectly. When it came time to supplement that core four with free agency, oh boy, did they ever do it. Then they started to overkill. Then they started to lose sight of what made them special, and they started 2004 themselves and got beat by, again, like a scrappy upstart team. Yeah, that also signed Manny Ramirez and got Kurt Schilling and was bringing in star power every year. So fleeced the Twins for David Ortiz. Yeah, but the Red Sox were also a behemoth. They tried to get Alex Rodriguez, before we got Alex Rodriguez.
Yep.
So the Yankees and Red Sox were basically the same. But around that time, the Yankees started splashing on people who shouldn't have been here. And they started losing sight of their scouting. And they started bringing in, Kevin Brown's deal and Javi Vasquez twice. And that's when things started to shift. They started to make mistakes. They reset again at the start of Aaron Judge's era, at the start of the Baby Bombers era, right? And then the Stanton choice, the no Bryce Harper choice, the way that they managed 2018 through the Garrett Cole offseason when they brought Cole in and no one else. And we'll never know what the 2020 Yankees would have been if we'd had a full season. But what we do know is that you bring in Garrett Cole, it's the splurge they needed. And then after that, they only signed one major leaguer, and it's Brett Gardner. Like, the least you can do after that is bring in platoon partners, bring in bench pieces, bring in bullpen, bring in reinforcements. They don't reinforce anything at all. They basically say, we got you. You guys were yelling at us to spend. You said we're cheap. Well, here's Garrett Cole. Guess what? We made a statement move, and the roster somehow didn't get any better. And we didn't see the year play out. We saw COVID and masks and empty stadiums and Tommy Kahnle getting Tommy John after a whole, April, May, June of inactivity, and Tanaka getting a line drive off his face.
That was crazy.
At training camp with nobody in the stadium. Right? We saw weird stuff, but you can't say the Yankees adequately prepared themselves to reach that next level in this draft. Yeah. 18 they tried with Stanton, it was a mistake. And Aaron Boone and Giancarlo Stanton lost to JD Martinez and Alex Cora. And it felt like, all right, Red Sox win that round. 19, demonstrably better season, but couldn't get past the Astros. And the Astros made the Zach Greinke trade that we didn't get. And then 2020, we don't know what that season looked like. And from that point forward, it's by and large been strange moves and half measures. And Aaron Judge on the biggest bargain contract in baseball.
In history, arguably history. Like, it's one. It has to be top 10. It has to be top 10 in history. Like,
if he didn't sign it and he was a free agent a little bit later, he could have doubled or tripled.
Yep. But yeah, the Cole and Stanton, to me, those acquisitions, it's like Paulie in The Sopranos when he tells Bobby Bacala, he's like, the boss said you're Santa Claus, so you're fucking Santa Claus. So shut the fuck up about it. It's like that. It's like, we got Garrett Cole, so shut up and go away. We're done. It's like, no.
Excuse me? Who else you want us to bring on? We brought Garrett Cole. Excuse me.
It's dismissive in a sense, right? It's just like, this is it. You're dealing with it. Enjoy. And look, we're fans. We're not shareholders, so we get it. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you got to go a little bit further if you want to win. So why aren't we there? Anyway, them going further. Rumors. Where do they stand? What are we thinking? What's going to happen? The Yankees are planted in some. They're outside on others. I don't know. Do we have any predictions for this winter meetings? I honestly don't. I have none.
I still smell like a Marlins. I know they want Spencer Jones. We know they got close on Alcantara and Anthony Bender last summer. Brian Cashman went out and said, again, optimism, pessimism, you could read it either way. He said he was thankful for all the work he did this summer, and so are we. But what work is that really? Jake Bird and Camilo Doval. So it means you're not completely devoid of bullpen options. David Bednar, you did bring in one person who I trust, one person who I would like to see, I guess, in Camilo Doval, one person who I haven't thought about since last August, and Jake Bird. That is work. If they had not done that work, they would be empty cupboard. And when he said, I'm whatever, we have to replace Williams and Weaver, and everyone was like, oh my God, is he saying Weaver's gone? I was like, yeah, where you been? Weaver's gone. That's not surprising at all to me. I don't know where he lands, but this is my shocked face. On the one hand, yeah, he's right. They got 3 bullpen options last summer, and they have to do maybe a little less work there, and bringing back Hill. They bring back Yarbrough. You still need a piece or two. So if he's referring to, I'm glad we got bullpen options to backfill, then great. But Ahmed Rosario, you brought him in the building. Great platoon fit. You got to bring him back now. Ryan McMahon, they had some kind words to say about Ryan McMahon today, but you need to add a Rosario or else that acquisition is kind of a dud. Yep. I like McMahon too, but you do have to add an extra piece. If it's a guy like Austin Hayes, we're talking about them doing they need Austin Slater didn't work. Let's try it again. You already did that work. He played 6 games. He hit 104. Bring in another righty hitting outfielder. I love it, but you got to get that done. So, I mean, my heart of hearts, the predictions are they re-engage with the Marlins. that we look thankful for what we did last July is all bullpen lip service. I think they still do more. I think they bring in a bullpen arm or two. I think they bring in a young controllable starter. I think Will Warren has more of a market on the trade market than people are willing to acknowledge. We talked about this a little bit last week. Like, people steal peripheral heavy righties with great stuff and weird service numbers all the time, and they're popular trade candidates. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen like Cardinals blogs writing about Will Warren with the Brendan Donovan chase on, and all these other sites being like, who actually might be sort of underrated is Will Warren. Like, he probably deserves more of that. He had a mid-4s ERA, he had a couple of blow-up starts, and the metrics look like Michael King, for good reason. If you're a metrics head, he's a guy that you could definitely grab. So I think Warren is someone they'll shop. Heel is someone they'll shop. They'll bring in a bullpen piece and a controllable starter on the trade market, and they will sign a righty bat of some kind, whether it's Rosario plus or whether it's just Rosario or just Hayes or just an outfield platoon partner or just someone who could slide in alongside Ryan McMahon. That's what I feel like is going to happen. I think making a splash trade of Jazz Chisholm is so deeply silly, even if you think he's overrated in the comments. And I hear you. He had a bad postseason when he first got here. Didn't do much last year except for in Game 3 of the DS. If you don't want him to be a long-term Yankees fit, I'm not clamoring to sign him to an extension now. I do think it's a more complicated conversation than just look at the stats. Don't you want him back forever? But this year, I do think he's going to have a big year this year. And I think he's the kind of guy who wants to parlay a contract year into something great. He's the kind of guy who's already fit in pretty well at Yankee Stadium and put up 40-40 numbers in 162 games. So I wouldn't get rid of him this year, and I don't know what you're getting that matches the present-day value. I wouldn't sign him to an extension either. I think keep him, let him go off one more time, and then let somebody else pay him. It's not the biggest tragedy in the world if he moves on to a $250 million contract next year, but it would be weird to make yourself worse by dealing him tomorrow.
Exactly, and especially because you have Trent Grisham on a 1-year contract too. So it's like, if you're going to go for it, if they can get short-term, like, look, they say 2026, fuck it. Let's say, for example, the blueprint, if all this stuff was on the table, right? You get Tucker on that Bregman contract, like we talked about. I know only one executive in that poll said that he might be open to a shorter-term deal with opt-outs. Don't know if that's real, but if you're the Yankees, you should do that. If Tarek Skubal's on the table, he's not, but you never know. You go get Tarek Skubal and you empty the farm, and then you just go for it in 2026. You have Jazz for one more year. You have Grisham coming off the books. This is probably one of your last. Who knows what you're getting out of Stanton this point forward, but like if you get a good 80 games out of him and he's available for the postseason, then that's a win. You have Aaron Judge's prime. You have Garrett Cole hopefully going to be at full force in the second half of the season. Same thing with arguably, the other half of the pitching staff. So maybe if they want to go for it without clogging the books up beyond 2027, then unload everything and see how many short-term commitments you can get and see how many, top prospects you can comfortably leverage, because the Skubal trade is going to cost you a lot. A Joe Ryan trade is going to cost you a lot. Things of that nature. Those are the only things that I believe, and that I think most Yankees fans believe, would actually push this team over the edge, right? Like there's not a whole lot out there, and that's why we've been complaining for 5 years, because we saw this offseason coming and we said, hey, well, not a whole lot going on for the Yanks this offseason, so they should probably prepare so they could sit one out. Like, I have no issue with the Yankees sitting out an offseason. You know how relaxing that would be? If you're like, we actually, like, if you're the Dodgers right now, I know that's a luxury, but like, let's say you're just a team that made the right moves over the last few years. Didn't even have to be spending. You could have just made a bunch of shrewd trades with guys under club control, and you're like, hey, we got the lockout coming out after 2026. Woo! This free agency class kind of sucks. Let's sit back this year. Let's watch these other teams make these dumb deals. Let's go to the winter meetings and have like too many Manhattans and see what happens. We'll have a good time. Like, I would love that. But the Yankees are taking off seasons in some capacity for different reasons, because they don't want to spend, or they don't like the price, or they think another team is asking for too much in return for a trade candidate. Like, I don't know. If I were to guess, it's that short-term plan. The Yankees are going to want to do everything they can to get that short-term financial flexibility, even if it means trading for a 1-year rental. They've proven they're not afraid to do that in the last 2 years. But in that same breath, Joe Ryan has 2 years of club control left. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think a prime candidate to be dealt midseason still, even
Yeah.
though they're saying, hey, we're not
Yeah.
into it. Like, he's going.
Agreed. And same with Skubal. I don't think the Tigers are trading Skubal, if they are even considering it all, until the trade deadline, because they want to see if they can go for it. If they're fully out of it at the trade deadline, which it would be hard to believe, then at that point you capitalize on desperate teams who are like, we need this guy right now. But if there's another path for the Yankees to figure out shorter term candidates, maybe that's the play. But a Tarek Skubal trade or a Joe Ryan trade, like I was saying, is very different from the Soto and the Bellinger trades, because it's pitching. Pitching is always more expensive than position players. And 2, the market is going to be way overcrowded for both of those guys than Soto or Bellinger were. Soto and Bellinger had maybe 2 teams in their market the years that they were traded. Like, Soto was making 30 plus million a year in arbitration. There was only a couple of teams that could pay that plus give up assets. And honestly, I don't remember if anybody else really wanted Cody Bellinger last year, because it only took the Yankees trading a pitcher that ended up getting DFA'd after 5 games, and the Yankees got money sent to them because the Cubs wanted to dump the salary so bad. So this would be a real trade if the Yankees are going after anybody else, and then it's real 1-year money for Kyle Tucker with the expectation that he could opt in for 2027. Maybe that's the plan. I don't know, but from what the Yankees are giving us and what we know the history to be, it just doesn't sound like they're going to be making these crazy momentous moves that are, you're getting somebody on an 8-year contract. I don't see it happening. But yeah, I mean, I agree on Jazz too. Like, do we sign him to an extension? I mean, you don't after last year, because now his price is as high as can be. If you were going to sign him to an extension, you should have done it the offseason after he arrived to then maybe get a discount. I can understand people not being a fan of Jazz. If you want to argue about the last 2 postseasons, I understand that. At the same time, though, from a 162 game perspective, like, you're not getting a more dynamic player. It's just not happening. Are you getting a better fit? Potentially. Maybe you get a more clutch hitter. Maybe you get someone who's more situational as well. Like, maybe that, I don't know, but like, I don't know who you're pound for pound, you're getting more talent in the Jazz Chisholm, or what you're upgrading. Because right now you're not trading Jazz Chisholm in theory for a shortstop. Like, that's probably just a really difficult thing to do in terms of equating value. So you're certainly not trading him for an outfielder. And again, if you're trading him for pitching, you might as well just spend the money on pitching, because the money to spend on pitchers is there. 2 of the things that frustrate me the most are these potential trades that you would get off of a short-term individual for the sake of, I don't know, because I don't see the roadmap beyond 2026. And 2 is, do we really need a platoon for Ryan McMahon? He's making $16 million. Just trade him if you think you need a platoon option for him. That means he's not good enough in your eyes, right? Like, it's $16 million for a third baseman. That he's not in the top 10 percentile of salaries, but that's a lot of money. So just get off of him, see if there are any takers there, and then figure out your next plan of action with that position. But yeah, I have no predictions. I literally have no predictions. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't even want to predict anything, because usually when I predict what I want, the opposite comes true. So I will remain mysterious.
Talk about half measures, though. You're paying Ryan McMahon $16 million for the next 2 years, and then you're like, maybe he needs a platoon partner, maybe half of a third baseman. Like, and you can't find the money for Cody Bellinger, but you found the money at the deadline for Ryan McMahon. Like, I'm a fan. I'm a McFan. But still, these are the kind of things that you don't do without being willing to go further. Like, you are the Yankees. That gives you a unique advantage. You can absorb a potentially bad deal from the Rockies, potentially bad, because it's just a blip on your radar, but it kills them. So you can take deals that are weighing down other teams and say, this doesn't weigh me down at all. Actually, I feel light as a feather. But then you let it weigh you down once they get here. That's what I hate that they do. And we'll see what they do for the rest of the week. This will not be our last show. You're going to turn on the notifications to know when we're going live, and maybe we'll have to go live on a round of breaking move. We just don't know. I mean, in terms of predicting and not predicting things that you want to see happen because you're worried they won't happen. How the hell is Don Mattingly not in the Hall of Fame?
Oh my God.
Like, we were getting the intel from the previous couple of weeks was basically like that the committee was a huge fan of, not a huge fan of the steroid guys, a huge fan of the pure baseball guys, the guys that tell the story of the game. And Bob Nightingale said yesterday Mattingly's favored to go in, and maybe he'll be joined by one or two guys. And presumably that intel comes from the room. Like, he's tweeting it the way he tweets the award stuff. When he's like, Aaron Judge is expected to be the runaway MVP tonight, wink, wink, because he knows. And so when he tweets that, you're like, oh, he knows about this too. Great. Can't wait to see Don Mattingly get in. Now, sorry, everybody. Even after all the pro Mattingly pieces and the pro Dale Murphy pieces, they're not getting in. Those guys are not going to the Hall of Fame. It's not happening. They needed 12 votes last night. They got 6, not even close. 5 is the threshold that they put on. So if you get under 5, you can't even be on the ballot next time. And these guys who were favored to get in get one more vote than that bottom tier threshold. That's crazy. Say what you will about Jeff Kent. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. He doesn't make the Hall of Fame worse in my eyes, but you're telling the story about baseball. When's the chapter on Jeff Kent, the guy who was 29 and a bust, who went to the San Francisco Giants and revamped his career midway through and then put up some all-star seasons with the Astros and Dodgers late in his career, hit like 250 of his 360 career homers after the age of 29, and went to San Francisco to play with Bonds. We don't elect any of these steroid guys, but we're going to bring Jeff Kent. We're going to put Jeff Kent in there. Nothing suspicious about that. That's normal. Everything I just said was normal, right? That he found power at the age of 30. Okay. Legendarily bad teammate. Like, okay. Like, to me, he's a borderline Hall of Famer. And if we're opening it up to him, we have to open it up to the other steroid guys that we didn't let in. But anyway, when do you start telling the story? I mean, best second baseman of his era, I see in the
Don
comments.
Mattingly was the best first baseman of his era. So it's
the best first baseman of his era, top 3 most famous, important player of the 1980s, got hurt by never making the postseason in an era when only 2 teams made the postseason in the AL. There was a CS and there was a World Series. And Mattingly,
are we going small market now?
Those
we've gone small market.
We've gone teeny tiny market. Those 80s Yankees teams won 87 games and 90 games every year, never made the playoffs. So oops. A comment earlier, it was like Mattingly and Judge are going to be the only Yankees captains to never win a World Series. I mean, yeah, I hear it. It's not a fantastic look. But Mattingly could have, once he got injured, once he lost his power, could have played 3-4 more years. He said that this week, but he didn't want to compile. He wanted to spend time with his family. He was no longer the player he once was, but he was still an A+ defensive first baseman, A+ leader, one of the best players of the 80s, right? And so Jeff Kent was the best second baseman of his era. How long is that era? Like, Chase Utley was a better second baseman when he came in. Dustin Pedroia was a better second baseman when he came in. Robinson Cano was a better second baseman when he came in. I think Jeff Kent should be in the Hall. But when we're talking about defining baseball history, Mattingly is 2 or 3 tiers above Jeff Kent. And I'm being told not to make assumptions about a particular player playing in the steroid era. Can I make assumptions about a guy who figured out how to hit for power at the age of 30 in the middle of a steroid era after he joined Barry Bonds' team and Rich Aurelia's team? Can I make assumptions about that guy? It's a fair assumption to make.
Yeah, of course it is. And look, everybody in that era is under suspicion in some capacity. There are people
like 80% of baseball players use steroids, and I think we should expand the field to let those guys in. But let's not kid ourselves just because Kent's not on a list that he didn't have a very suspicious power jump at the time when everyone was discovering how to be undetectable.
Yeah, it's not. And again, like, we're not lobbying against Jeff Kent. Jeff Kent had, I think if you were to have the same, if he was getting looked over for the Hall of Fame in the manner that Don Mattingly has for the past however many years, two decades, 2.5 decades, you could have the same conversation. You could say this guy was the best second baseman in the league from 1998 to 2005. How do you not include him? How is he not being considered? How does he keep getting passed over? He had a tremendous tremendous longevity, playing until he was 40 years old. But like, again, the Hall of Fame case, the MVP, we had this conversation with the MVP case too. Like, it's more nuanced. There is more narrative here. Like, where was your place in baseball as X, Y, or Z player? Did you define an era? What was your impact on the game? How were you remembered? And Don Mattingly is a baseball name. It's a lot of Yankees fans, especially, think When they hear baseball, they think Don Mattingly. And I think that a lot of older fans definitely revered the work that Don Mattingly did. And we're kind of outdated, right? Because we didn't grow up on Don Mattingly like we were young kids. When did he retired after 95?
Yeah, we weren't there. I didn't watch the one playoff
No.
run. I was 5. He's my dad's favorite player.
Shame on you, dude.
My dad's favorite player of all time, and he's the favorite player of pretty much everybody who's stuck watching the 80s Yankees. I just think if Mattingly got in, a lot of people would have cried about it the way they cry about Rizzuto getting in. They would have said Yankees bias or whatever. But again, I think it's almost the opposite. Like if the best player of the 80s was on any other team, he'd be in already. And if Mattingly had, like the comment said, waited till 96 and won a ring, like as a bench piece on the 96 Yankees,
no
I
doubt,
think he's probably a shoe-in.
No
That's why it's just stunning to me that Dale Murphy and Mattingly, two of the preeminent stars of the 80s, like two of the top 10 poster boys of the 1980s, are not in. They're never getting in, and one of them is a Yankee. It's crazy. On yesterday's ballot, I mean, I'm a Bonds and Clemens supporter. I think they should both be in. Many people obviously disagree. And so if you disagree, fine. But I put those guys in from yesterday's ballot. If we're even taking them off, I think Carlos Delgado, Jeff Kent, Don Mattingly, and Dale Murphy are all Hall of Famers. I put a lot of people in from yesterday's ballot, but most of them didn't get any attention paid to them. And my top 2 are Mattingly and Murphy, and they got doubled up and more by Jeff Kent, which is so surprising to me. And Delgado is my 4th ranked. I rank Kent above Delgado. But Delgado gets 9 votes. Mattingly gets 6. Like, talk about a compiler. Carlos Delgado on the Marlins in the middle of his career. Carlos Delgado on the anonymous mid-90s Blue Jays. Lot of power. Contended with the Mets towards the end of his career. The numbers are way better than you think they are. But that's because you don't really think about him. You think about Don Mattingly all the time. I don't get it.
Yeah, I really don't either. And it's become a numbers game too, right? Like you just look at the stats that Murphy and Mattingly compiled, and it's just if you're looking at it through that lens, it's not enough. Like, right? It's just not. It's that the numbers are not there, but the MVPs are there. The overall, just I don't want to say cultural because that's too expansive, but just the iconic nature within the franchise. And there's validity with that with every team, right? Like we're talking about the Braves here. He was the Braves icon, guy who won back-to-back MVPs, defined an era in a sense. Was it the greatest era of all time? No, but it still was an important chapter of baseball history. So because he has 46 WAR, that's not good enough. Can't get in. You need at least 55 WAR to get in now. Like, I don't know. And that's where this gets a little dicey. And Joel Sherman had a really good rant on it. Not rant. It was actually an eloquent speech on MLB Network this morning. And he was talking about how I don't think we know who votes on the Veterans Committee or on the Hall of Fame Committee. You don't know who is. Like
you know the names, but they're not publicly releasing what they voted for.
Yes,
Sherman was on MLB Network ranting about that. Like the writers have tried really hard to get their ballots. They're publicizing a lot of their ballots. They voted to make everybody, strip people of the anonymous nature of their ballots, and the Hall of Fame said no. So the writers are trying. Yesterday's committee was just very mysterious. Former players. Artie Moreno was on there. Like, it was impossible to read what they would believe, and it was like this anonymous that they were making cases and then going into rooms and dropping anonymous ballots. I mean, it was very strange and was such a small percentage of the total number of people who should care about something like this.
Yeah, and he was like, my stance on steroid users. Like, as a fan, you can reference me and like what I believe and know why that was the result. This time around, it's like, I guess it's the fact that maybe fans want to be inside the minds of these voters to know the rationale and the logic behind it, because something like this is it's just a little bit backwards when you look at the bigger picture. So all anybody wants is context. And I think that explanation and take on the whole thing made you realize people do deserve to know what the committee or the voting panel, what their opinions are and where they lean, because then we can have an expectations of like, oh, no, you know, like you write guys off on the Hall of Fame ballot every year, right? You're just like, oh, we know the writers aren't going for this guy, so don't count on it. And it's like, all right, this felt like it's going to happen. Oh my God, Don Mattingly's going to get in. This is the time. It's finally here. And then it was just like not even close. And you were like, okay. Anybody care to tell me why? But people don't like to do that. They like to remain in the dark. So we'll find out when we find out, I guess, eventually. Again, book in 20 years. Well, if you're not dead, you'll be here to read it.
It's not getting any better. And a quick hearty sign off before we leave to Sonny Gray, proven liar, who Brian Cashman says told people to tell him to get it to Cashman that he wanted to be a Yankee and wanted out of Oakland before the 2017 deadline.
Get it to Brian's desk.
When he was, get the A's video coordinator waving a paper around going, I got to get this to Brian Cashman. Sonny Gray wants out. I don't know what the hell that story is. But Gray apparently thought he'd be traded in 2018. Cashman didn't find a spot for him. And then after that, Sonny Gray was like, I didn't want to ever be here, right? I don't want you. I don't like your city. I sit in my hotel. I don't do anything. I'm scared of New York. Like, okay, great. A very interesting story from Brian Cashman. Validity? Probably. I don't know why Brian Cashman would lie about that. Then Sonny Gray's agent comes out and says, none of this. Sonny never wanted out of Oakland. He loved Oakland. Okay, sure. Bottom line, I think Sonny Gray is a performative hater of New York and of the Yankees. He says different things to different people. He's in Boston now. He gets a convenient chance to hate his former team. He obviously hates them more than what he did when he got here because he was terrible here. So if you don't perform, then you don't play, then we don't like you. But it sure seems like Brian Cashman asked, do you want to be here? Sonny Gray delivered a lie and then eventually told the truth. Never did. Or maybe he was lying to Cashman then and he told his teammates something else. Either way, I don't want to think about this 36-year-old apparent number 2 starter of the Boston Red Sox anymore. Joe Ryan not on the market. Are the Red Sox going to pay up for Sandy Alcantara? Sonny Gray and Devin Williams sounding off on the Yankees might shy away other players from wanting to be a Yankee. Sonny Gray was a Yankee like 7 years ago. And Devin Williams, did he sound off? I mean, he indicated that, he did what's right for him in his game and maybe they weren't calling pitchers the proper way. I don't think that's going to sour anybody on being – if you don't know what it takes to be a Yankee – like at this point, you got to know, right? Like you just have to.
Yeah, this isn't the 40s anymore. Everything is well documented. It's not like Sonny Gray was traded in like, the early 2000s. Yeah, this was the age of social media.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be licorice whips and gumdrop islands. And I got here and people wanted me to play well. Well, what in the heck? And what in tarnation? Yeah, there are expectations here.
Yeah, it's all anybody talks about, the unforgiving nature and how, you don't have to be incredible, but if you deliver in the postseason, you become royalty. I don't know. Maybe he's not reading the papers. Maybe he's not on Twitter. I don't know. Who knows?
I hope this is the last time we talk about him before the Yankees face him, but there will come a time, and all these former acquisitions who've come back to dominate the Yankees, and Aroldis Chapman throwing 107 now. I don't know if I see the same future for Sonny Gray. He's just not that kind of guy, but hey, he's probably going to kick our ass at some point. Maybe he and Hunter Dominguez can form a Liars Club in the Red Sox clubhouse. Maybe they can all make up a reason why Boston should have a chip on their shoulder. That's my favorite. They're going to have a $260 million payroll this year. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to be the underdogs. At some point, I hereby lead Gray and Hunter Dominguez to be the chairman of the fake chip on the shoulder team. You guys let me know what you come up with. Let me know why Boston's being disrespected this time. Run it by me first. I'll tell you if I think it's valid or not. Hint, it's probably not going to be valid. We'll join you again later in the week. Hopefully nobody else lies about their time with the Yankees. During this period. We'll go live if we have to, but honestly, we want to stick to the acquisitions. So let's see if the Yankees can make moves. Let's see if anybody can make moves. Right now, it's the Jays and the Red Sox making noise. The Yankees just kind of sitting around, kind of floating stuff, kind of talking about the summer and the stuff that they already did. So who the hell knows? I'm Adam Weiner. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weiner. Thomas Carinate. Where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We're here all night at Yanks Go Yard FS.
FS. Like A-Rod, yeah.
FS. That's the official. I'm doing it with all of them. Yanks Go Yard social media accounts. We're going to be active all day and night through the next 3.5 days. Everyone's probably going to be taking off Thursday morning hungover, like we've come to see. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. We could be going live during a big trade, during a big moment. We don't know when they're going to unfold. Again, like we told you, we don't know what's going to happen. Appreciate you guys tuning in and reading. As always, yanksgoyard.com is the spot for you to be informed on everything Yankees and even some other things. Hopefully we'll talk to you guys soon. Winter meetings, let's go. Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself, or at least try to. Until then, take care. Let's make some moves.